I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Hebrews, chapter 9. So let's focus on verses 27 and 28. Just as it has been appointed for people to die once, and after this judgment, so also the Messiah, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time, not to bear sin, but to bring salvation to those who are waiting for him. Hebrews chapter 9, verses 27 and 28. The concept of reincarnation is attractive to people who are in some measure discontented with this life, which is to say, it's attractive to most people. And understandably so, because reincarnation, the idea, it satisfies a deep romantic need to suppose that in a past life, one might have been something or someone important. Moreover, it builds upon a non-biblical notion that only the soul is pure, that the body is unclean, it's inferior and unworthy of being immortal. But God has so organized the universe that human beings die once, not many times. The first half of today's passage refutes the idea of reincarnation, which is found in most Eastern religions and incorporated into a number of recent Western imitations. Reincarnation is built on the notion that although the body is obviously mortal, the soul is not. So that after one's body dies, the soul that was in it migrates, perhaps even after long intervals of time, it migrates to another body or to another organism. And so obviously, if God has appointed for mankind to die once, well, then it is impossible for mankind to be reincarnated. But you may say, well, what about those people who were clinically dead, and yet they were revived by some medical procedure? Didn't they die twice? Well, in short, no, they did not. What modern medicine calls impossibly dead, that is to be beyond recovery, well, that doesn't limit the Lord in any way. So therefore, the only time that we are inches from death is when we are actually inches from death. All those other times, we just thought that we were inches from death. Plus, when those people are revived, let's say, oh, my aunt flatlined, and then they had to revive her with the paddles. Well, whenever those people are revived, they're never revived to another body or to a butterfly or whatever. So the second half of today's passage deals with Jesus' first and second comings. His first coming was in relation to Isaiah 53, the suffering servant who would atone for sin. You see, being fully God and yet fully man, Jesus too was appointed to die only once. And that's good for us because he was blameless before the Lord. That means that it only took one time to atone for our sin. Now, by virtue of his sinless perfection, right? The Bible says, he who knew no sin became the sin offering for us. Well, by virtue of his sinlessness, then Jesus proved that he defeated not only sin, but also death by rising from the grave so that he could appear a second time. Now, this second coming fulfills prophecies such as Isaiah chapter 2, verses 2 through 5, or Isaiah 9:6, which say that the Messiah will bring peace to the world and deliver his people from oppression. So first he brings peace by bringing peace with God through atoning for sin. And then he comes back to those who have surrendered to the gospel in order to literally take them to a place where he is prepared with them, where he being part of the Trinity, so that God can dwell among his people. However, speaking of Israel, the Bible says in Romans 9:6 that not all who are descended from Israel are Israel in the eyes of the Lord, but only those who by faith believe, and therefore by his grace they are saved. Those are the ones who eagerly await Jesus' return, and those are the ones who have assurance that they will be delivered in his second coming. Do you have that assurance yourself? Jesus says, the Bible says, for all who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Jesus said, "I am the way and the truth and the life, and no man comes to the Father but through me." If you haven't surrendered to Him yet, you should do so even now. "Lord, I believe," you can pray, "and now help me with my unbelief." He'll answer prayers like that. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.